Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time, finally, we're going to get round to the next batch of Tintin books. That's volumes 4, 5 and 6. And I'm very much looking forward to diving into these and seeing just how good they really are. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. So we start off with book number 4, Cigars of the Pharaoh. So Cigars of the Pharaoh is the 4th book in the Tintin series as written and drawn by Belgian cartoonist Herges. Originally published in Le Petit Vingt-Ans, it was serialised weekly from December 1932 to February 1934. Now the story is as follows. Holidaying on a Mediterranean cruise ship, Tintin and his dog Snowy meet wealthy film producer Rastapopoulos, an eccentric Egyptologist Sophilus Sarcophagus. When 2 policemen, Thompson and Thompson, accuse Tintin of opium smuggling, he escapes the ship and joins Sarcophagus on his search for an undiscovered tomb of the pharaoh Ki-Oshk. Tintin discovers that the tomb is full of boxes of cigars labelled with a mysterious symbol of Ki-Osh, but he and Sarcophagus fall unconscious after an unseen enemy gasses them. They are then taken aboard a ship inside a wooden sarcophagi captained by smuggler Alain, but to avoid the Coast Guard, Alain orders Tintin and Snowy thrown overboard. They are rescued by a gunrunner who sails them to Arabia. Travelling by land, Tintin meets Sheikh Patrash Pasha, a big fan of his, and encounters Rastapopoulos filming a movie. The local army drafts Tintin and then arrests him as a spy, before Thompson and Thompson rescue him so that they can arrest him. However, when the army storms their hideout, Tintin manages to elude the policemen and escapes. Boarding a plane, Tintin escapes Arabia but runs out of fuel over India, crashing into the jungle. After saving a sick elephant, Tintin discovers Sarcophagus, who has become insane. While seeking for help at a nearby village, Sarcophagus attempts to kill Tintin on a command by a fakir. Tintin then interrogates a poet, Zloty, who is visiting the village along with a doctor. He reveals that there is an international drug smuggling ring determined to kill Tintin. Before he can reveal who is the boss, he is injected with the Rajaja juice, the poison of madness, by the fakir. When Tintin brings the 2 madmen to the hospital for treatment, Tintin is institutionalized in the asylum as a result of the fakir forging a letter by the doctor alleging that Tintin is the one who is mad. He soon escapes from the hospital by train, meeting the Maharaja of Gai Pajama. The 2 become friends when the Maharaja revealing that his family has long been fighting a criminal opium smuggling gang, and in the process his father and brother went mad. The fakir appears and Tintin follows him, discovers the drug cartel's hideout and infiltrates a meeting. Tintin manages to knock the others out when they attempt to find out who is the traitor amongst them. The Thompsons arrive and explain to Tintin that the Cairo police managed to discover a gang of drug smugglers and their hideout in Egypt. They also realise Tintin is innocent and find out about the hideout in India, which is where they are. The fakir escapes and with the masked leader of the conspiracy kidnaps the Maharaja's son. Tintin pursues them in a sports car, rescuing the boy and capturing the fakir, while the leader falls into a chasm, seemingly dying. Tintin returns to Gai Pajama, where his return is celebrated. Unwrapping one of the cigars with the mysterious Ki-Osh symbol, Tintin explains to the Maharaja how opium was smuggled across the world in the cigars. Now this work was redrawn in 1955, this time in beautiful colour using the clear line drawing style. A few non-consequential scenes and characters were removed, which added nothing to the story, while some new elements were added. The original version had included Sheikh Patrash Pasha showing Tintin a copy of Tintin in America. In the 1955 version, this was changed to the earlier Tintin in the Congo, and Herges would change it again in 1964 for subsequent printings, this time to Destination Moon, which was from 1953, an adventure which was set chronologically after Cigars. Apparently, Herges was influenced to write this story as crime thrillers were experiencing a massive surge in popularity during the late 20s and early 1930s, with popular crime authors Agatha Christie, Dorothy Sayers and Edgar Wallace all attaining massive popularity. Also in 1922, Howard Carter discovered Tutankhamun's tomb, which captivated the entire globe and the worldwide press with stories of curses. Cigars of the Pharaoh saw the introduction of several characters who would gain a recurring role in the adventures of Tintin. The most notable are the two detectives, who were initially called Agent X-33 and Agent X-33 bis. In his 1941 Tintin play, co-written with Jacques van Mechelbeck, Tintin in India, The Mystery of the Blue Diamond, Herges named them Durant and Durand, although he later renamed them Dupont and Dupond. The series' English language translators, that was Michael Turner and Leslie Lonsdale Cooper, renamed them Thompson and Thompson. They were based on a combination of the stereotypical Belgian policeman of the 1930s with Herges' observations of his father and uncle, Alexis and Leon Remy, who were identical twins. So I absolutely love stories that are set in Egypt, so I was really looking forward to reading this one. It's really only the early part of the story which is in Egypt, but I enjoyed the segments that were within the tomb, especially seeing the previous Egyptologists wrapped up as mummies. The action moves at a fair pace and really doesn't let up, with Tintin moving from one predicament to the next. Fantastic to see Thompson and Thompson at last. They do provide a bit of comic relief. I enjoyed the way over just a few days Tintin was able to work out the elephant's language and use this to his advantage later in the story. Beautiful to look at, this edition has very clear lines with the different countries each having a distinct feel to them. The big scenes really do jump off the page and are superbly rendered. I know this leads directly into the Blue Lotus, but that wasn't obvious. I think anyone reading this story out of sequence might be a little disappointed at the ending. So book 5 then is The Blue Lotus. So continuing where the plot of the previous story Cigars of the Pharaoh left off, this one was serialised from the 9th of August 1934 to the 17th of October 1935. So staying at the palace of the Maharaja of Gai Pajama in India, Tintin is approached by a visitor from Shanghai in China. The visitor supplies him with the name of Mitsuhiritato, a Japanese businessman based in Shanghai, but before finishing his message is hit by a dart dipped in Raja Raja, the poison of madness. Tintin and his fox terrier Snowy travel to Shanghai to meet Mitsuhiritato, who warns them that the Maharaja is in danger and that they should return to India. Surviving several attempts on his life by mysterious assailants, Tintin attempts to leave for India by boat, but is kidnapped. His abductors reveal themselves as members of a secret society known as the Sons of the Dragon, who are devoted to combating the opium trade. Their leader, Wang Chen Yi, explains to Tintin that Mitsuhiritato is both a Japanese spy and an opium smuggler, and enlists Tintin in their fight to stop him. Tintin agrees and spies on Mitsuhiritato at the Blue Lotus opium den. Following the spy, he discovers him blowing up a Chinese railway. The Japanese government uses this as an excuse to invade northern China, taking Shanghai under its control. Tintin is captured by Mitsuhiritato, who plans to poison him with Raja Rajaja and then release him so that information he spills won't be believed. However, one of Wang's agents swaps out the poison for coloured water, so when Tintin is poisoned, he is able to feign madness long enough to be untied and let go. Mitsuhiritato later discovers the deception and convinces J.M. Dawson, the corrupt police chief at the Shanghai International Settlement, to put a warrant out for Tintin's arrest. Meanwhile, Tintin enters the settlement in search of Professor Fang Haixing, an expert on poisons, who he hopes can develop a cure for Raja Raja. He discovers that he has been kidnapped. Dawson's police arrest Tintin and hand him over to the Japanese, who sentence him to death before he is rescued by Wang. Travelling to Hokau with the ransom money for Fang, Tintin comes across a flood that has destroyed a village and rescues a young Chinese orphan, Chang Chongchen. Chang accompanies Tintin to Hukao, where one of Mitsuharatu's spies ambushes them. They realise that it was a trap and that Fang was not there. Meanwhile, the detectives, Thompson and Thompson, are employed by Dawson to arrest Tintin, but fail on multiple occasions. Returning to Shanghai, Tintin intends to confront Mitsuharatu and allows himself to be captured by him. Being held prisoner at the Blue Lotus, he discovers that Mitsuharatu is in league with the film director Rasta Populus, who reveals that he is the leader of the international opium smuggling gang that Tintin had pursued in Egypt and India, and was the man assumed to have fallen to his death during the foiled kidnapping of the Maharaja's son. However, in accordance with Tintin's plan, Chang and the Sons of the Dragon rescue Tintin and Fang. Rastapopoulos is arrested while Mitsuharatu commits seppuku. Fang develops a cure for Raja Raja, while Wang adopts Chang as his son. Tintin's report on Mitsuharatu's activities leads to accusations against Japan, which withdraws from the League of Nations in protest. Now, Herges' adventures were being serialised in Le Petit Vingt, the Little 20th, and this was a children's supplement to the 20th century. Now, this paper was run by Abbe Norbert Wallitz. Now, Wallitz had ordered Herges to set his first adventure in the Soviet Union to act as anti-socialist propaganda for children, and this was published as Tintin in the Land of the Soviets, to set his second adventure in the Belgian Congo, to encourage colonial sentiment, that was Tintin in the Congo, and to set his third adventure in the United States to use the story as a denunciation of American capitalism, and this was published as Tintin in America. Now, on the 24th of November 1932, Le Petit Vingt published a fictional interview with Tintin in which the reporter announced that he would travel to China via Egypt, India, Sri Lanka and Indochina. Now, this plotline resulted in Tintin in the Orient, the first part of which was an adventure set in Egypt, which we have already seen, Cigars of the Pharaoh. The Blue Lotus was the second half of the Tintin in the Orient story, and this was to be concluded in The Broken Ear. Now, Herges' actual knowledge of these countries was minimal. Much was drawn from books of the period, and the works feature stereotypical depictions of non-European nationals, as previously seen in Tintin in the Congo. Around this time, though, he did develop a friendship with a Chinese student, Zhang Chonggren, who guided Herges and gave him much background on his home country. Critically, this story is considered one of the greatest of all the Tintin adventures. I wouldn't agree with the critics here. It's a good story for sure, and it ties up all the loose ends started in Cigars of the Pharaoh, but I felt Cigars was a touch better. The actual depiction of China is, however, glorious to behold, with the artwork really feeling bright and vibrant. The way Chinese text has been added to fill the backgrounds has also been skillfully done. Tintin himself feels much more mature in this story and less easily led. In fact, the whole adventure is more mature, with depictions of opium dens and drug use. I also particularly like Tintin taking sympathy and befriending a young orphan Chinese boy. So at this point, we'll just thank my channel members and Patreon supporters. So book number 6, and the last we'll take a look at today, is called The Broken Ear. Now, this story was first serialised weekly from December 1935 to February 1937. A fetish, which is an object believed to have supernatural powers, created by the Arambaya tribe of South America, is stolen from Brussels Museum of Ethnography, only to be returned the following day. Tintin realises that the replacement is a fake and draws a connection with a local sculptor, Jacob Balthazar, who has just been murdered. Balthazar's parrot, the only witness to the murder, is obtained by two Hispanic men, Alonso and Ramon, who try to kill Tintin when he begins to investigate their connection to the crime. From the parrot, Alonso and Ramon discover Balthazar's murderer is Rodrigo Tortilla, and they proceed to follow him aboard a ship bound for South America. There, they murder Tortilla and find that they didn't have the original fetish. Tintin, however, follows them and arranges their arrest when the ship docks at Los Dopicos, capital of San Theodoros. Nevertheless, the corrupt colonel in charge of the arrest allows the antagonist to slip away and detains Tintin. In the city, Tintin is framed as a terrorist, arrested and sentenced to death by firing squad. Tintin survives when a revolution topples the government, and the new leader, General Alcazar, appoints Tintin to be his aide-de-camp. Alonso and Ramon capture Tintin and interrogate him in the hope of locating the missing fetish, but they only end up briefly put behind bars by him. As an aide-de-camp, Tintin opposes the proposed decision of San Theodoros, claiming the supposedly oil-rich Gran Chapo, as this would cause a war between San Theodoros and neighbouring Nuevo Rico, and he is framed as a traitor by warmongering oil and weapon companies. Nevertheless, Tintin's new friend Pablo frees him from imprisonment, allowing for Tintin to flee to Nuevo Rico. However, in the process, he inadvertently causes events which, partially as its government considered claiming Gran Chapo for its oil as well, have Nuevo Rico start a war between it and San Theodoros. Once within Nuevo Rico, Tintin decides to enter the forest and find the Arumbaya tribe, hoping that they can explain to him why people wish to steal the fetish. Finding a British explorer, Ridgewell, living among the Arumbaya, Tintin learns that a diamond was hidden inside the statue. As the war between San Theodoros and Nuevo Rico ends with Gran Chapo is discovered to have no oil, Tintin returns to Belgium after a brief encounter with Alonso and Ramon. There, Tintin discovers Balthazar's brother has been producing a range of exact replicas of the fetish, which he had discovered among his deceased brother's belongings. Tintin learns it was purchased from him by Samuel Goldbar, a wealthy American, now returning to the United States with it by ship. Catching up to the boat, Tintin finds Alonso and Ramon aboard. His struggle with them for the possession of the fetish results in it smashing on the floor, upon which the hidden diamond in it rolls overboard into the sea. Alonso and Ramon try to kill Tintin for making them lose it, and the three of them accidentally fall overboard as well. Tintin is rescued, but Alonso and Ramon drown. Goldbar allows Tintin to return the stolen fetish to the museum, where it is repaired and put back on display, albeit comically damaged. The Broken Ear introduces the recurring character General Alcazar, who went on to become a recurring character who appears in 3 further adventures. This was the first story to include fictional countries. In preparing The Broken Ear, Herges developed the new habit of keeping plot notes and ideas in a notebook. He also began making cuttings of photographs and other images from magazines and newspapers, filing them away for future use. He used them as the basis for many of the drawings in The Broken Ear. Herges used The Broken Ear to allude to real events that had recently taken place in South America. When Leslie Longdale Cooper and Michael Turner translated the book into English, they renamed the Biberos as the Rumbabas, a pun on the Rumbaba pudding. In 1979, the Palace of Fine Arts in Brussels held an exhibition marking 50 years of the adventures of Tintin. As part of this, they included artifacts that featured in the series, with the broken-eared Peruvian statue that inspired Herges' Arumbaya fetish as the centerpiece of the show. However, they feared that it might be stolen, so a replica was exhibited rather than the genuine article. Imitating the events of The Broken Ear, a thief broke in and stole the statue. A letter was then sent to Le Soir in which an individual claiming to be the thief stated that the item would be returned if Herges returned to the scene of the crime at a certain time with a copy of the book under his right arm. Herges did so, but carried the book under his left arm. The thief never appeared, and the replica fetish was never recovered. I was a little disappointed with this story. The artwork throughout didn't seem up to the same quality as the last 2 books, with a distinct lack of detail on some of the pages. The plot moves along quite swiftly though, and is satisfactorily resolved in the end. It just seemed very text heavy, with whole panels filled with text to move the story along. The sequence when Tintin is given a car and is heading for the border is great, with a real sense of speed and urgency. His escape and subsequently getting washed up a treacherous river is excellent. Overall, these three certainly have their charms, and I don't dislike them. It's just I know that there are greater adventures still to come, and I want to get to them as soon as possible. So thanks very much for watching this video today. As you see in the corner, I have bought these three books in these beautiful hardback editions, and I'll put links for yourself to buy those in the description down below. Look for the next part of this, covering books 7, 8 and 9 in a month or so's time. Thanks very much for watching today. Do please hit that like button if you've enjoyed the video. Do please subscribe if you've not already to the channel, and I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.